Hello, I'm Autistic Tea. I'm autistic, I drink tea, and I talk about things. And today I'm going to be talking about the real villain of Paranormal Activity. Today I'm drinking elderberry and echinacea, which was part of a care package from friends. And I have a little bit of a sniffle, so hopefully the echinacea will help me get over that. So, horror movies are my comfort movie because nothing brings me more comfort than watching other people suffering when I'm suffering. Particularly because like when you're sitting there and you're in like so much pain and you're bleeding and you're like, well, it could be worse. I could be possessed by a demon. It just puts things in perspective. I have rewatched like some of my favorites, like The Conjuring, The Blair Witch Project, Apostle. That's one of my like number one favorites. And Paranormal Activity. But the more I watch Paranormal Activity, the harder it is to watch because of who the real bad guy is in that movie. You see, obviously there's the demon in the movie, or the demon. They think it's a demon. I'm going to call it the entity. We're ignoring the Paranormal Activity, like future ones. We're ignoring like the universe or whatever, the PAU. We're forgetting all of that. We're just focusing on the first movie. It was intended to be a standalone movie, so we're just focusing on Paranormal Activity. And the entity in that, I think, is actually there to protect Katie. I understand that it is scaring her, but I think it's not actually attempting to hurt her. It's attempting to protect her, because the real bad guy in Paranormal Activity is Micah, or Micah. His name is pronounced Micah, which is an unusual pronunciation of that name, but just because it's unusual doesn't mean that like it's wrong or anything. So, Micah. So before we even begin the movie, I want to establish that Katie and Micah's relationship is inherently unequal and is rife for financial abuse, because Katie is a student and Micah is a day trader, so she's not earning and he's clearly earning like a lot of money.
So seriously, what did you throw down for that?
Well, about half as much as I made today.
And is presumably paying for the house, the bills, the food, everything like that. So she is reliant financially on him. Anyone she chooses to hire, say the psychic and the demonologist, if she pays them, presumably Micah is actually the one paying for that. And this is a situation which like a lot of people end up in. I'm actually in this position. My partner pays for everything. So I know from personal experience how much you have to discuss with your partner and how much trust you have to put into your partner to not financially abuse you. I'm lucky. I'm fine. My partner pays for everything. But if my partner chose not to pay for my doctor's appointments, if he chose not to pay for my medications, if he chose not to pay for my gluten-free foods and food replacers and things like that, like I'm kind of expensive to take care of. If he chose not to do that, I would have no recourse. I cannot be on the benefit because he earns too much money. So I have no income of my own. So if he chose not to pay for things, if he chose not to take me out to things, I could essentially be stuck at home without medication and without food that I need so that my body isn't in pain. And like that's a pretty precarious situation to be in. I don't think legally that should be how it is. I don't think that's the way the benefit should be. Just because I'm lucky enough that my partner isn't taking advantage of the situation doesn't mean that I think it's a good situation. What you doing, Moonpie? Again, my partner adores me. My partner is very good. It's very respectful. We're a very equal partnership. It's fine. But what I'm saying is that Katie and Micah do not have the relationship that me and my partner have, okay? He clearly uses the fact that like he's paying for stuff to shut down conversations about finances, because right at the beginning of the movie she comes in and she asks how much it costs. He refuses to answer that question until eventually he says half of what I made today. So he's basically saying like, look, this is my money, I get to spend whatever I want on it, even though they're a couple who are living together, and therefore financial decisions should sort of be combined. You know, if my partner makes a big purchase, he talks to me about it, even though he's making the purchase, because it's still a shared financial situation. When you look at the movie from that perspective, you realize that Katie is kind of trapped in that relationship with Micah, because she is essentially reliant on him to pay for everything. She's reliant on him for housing. She's reliant on him for food. If she wanted to leave that relationship, it would be a lot harder for her because she doesn't have her own source of income. She would have to go and live with a friend. She would have to rely on the charity of others until she was able to establish herself. And because she is a student, she doesn't have the opportunity to get a job in the same way. So it would be very difficult for her to leave this relationship, which explains a lot of how she ends up sort of giggling and smoothing over a lot of Micah's boundary crossing and his aggression and his his general disrespect of her, because she is incentivized to placate him. She is desensitized. She is desensitized. It benefits her to not rock the boat, because it doesn't benefit her to cause issues, to upset Micah, because he could turn on her. And she is encouraged to stay in that relationship because she's reliant on him financially. And even though the relationship is not doing healthy things for her, yes, I think he loves her and I think she loves him. I think that there is affection there, a genuine affection there. But just because someone loves you doesn't mean they can't abuse you. I know this from experience. Whenever you watch the movie, bear in mind that Katie can't just leave Micah, just like she can't leave the demon.
What's your life like? What's your relationship like?
It's good.
So Micah is a bad guy. We're going to talk about how Micah kind of sees Katie less as a person and more as sort of a sexy prop. She is his means to sex and his means to get the supernatural on tape. He does not prioritize Katie's feelings throughout the movie. He prioritizes getting demonic activity on camera. He prioritizes his own ego. Okay, so Katie is essentially a prop to him. We're also going to talk about how Micah constantly diminishes and dismisses Katie's feelings, actively adding to her fear and agitation. And we're also going to talk about Micah's possessiveness of Katie, which ties into the first point about her being a prop.
I'm taking care of it. This is my house. You're my girlfriend. I'm gonna fucking solve the problem.
Right from the get-go, Micah says that he doesn't really believe in this supernatural thing. He thinks it's just some kids messing with her and that it's like all in her head. So he wants to get proof of it on camera. He even asks her, how do we get this stuff to happen? And she says, I don't want it to happen.
Get the ghost back. Go some more interesting, you know?
I'm not interested in that. I just want them to go away.
So he's explicitly trying to get the scary stuff to happen on camera, and she has explicitly stated that she does not want it to happen at all because it scares her.
So this could be like a really rare phenomenon, and it's cool we got it on tape.
I'm surprisingly not as excited as you, considering I'm the one that's being terrified.
That's all good. We'll take care of it.
This will be a recurring thing throughout the movie. She's constantly saying, I am scared, I am frightened, I do not want this to happen. And he says, I am going to provoke this thing. I am going to try and get this on camera. I want to get proof, right? He's constantly trying to get proof on camera. And even when they get proof, he continues to push and push and push and ignore Katie so that he can get this information, because she is the source of him getting that proof on camera. He thinks that this is so awesome. He thinks it's so cool. He's always talking about it, and he's constantly using her, putting her in danger to get what he wants, which is to have this stuff on camera because he thinks it's really cool.
This is really good stuff. I hope that guy, whatever, shows us a little more action.
Maybe we shouldn't have the camera.
Hello? This is really golden shit.
He is told by the psychic that it wants Katie and that provoking it is not a good idea. He then does his own research where he presents the same information he was just told by the psychic, as though he alone found that out, and he's presenting it to Katie like, look how smart I am.
Dr. Frederick said that it wasn't a ghost.
I'm going by the evidence, and I'm doing my research, and I'm going to find out what it is.
And he even says himself, provoking it makes it worse. It wants to scare you because it wants to hurt you. He continues to provoke it. He continues to upset Katie. He continues to try and get proof on camera. This is because it's not affecting him. She is a prop. He does not care about her feelings. She is the way for him to get this stuff on camera, and her being upset is completely, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that she's upset because he's getting what he wants.
Not an option at this point. With all that cool stuff going on.
Cool.
Which ties into my next point, that he constantly diminishes and dismisses her feelings.
This camera on us, no.
Oh, yeah, I took my camera off for 10 minutes.
On night 3, the biggest boundary violation occurs. There are lots of boundary violations, but this is the worst one because it could have resulted in an actual crime. On night 3, Micah tries to film them having sex without Katie's knowledge and without her consent. He asked her, she said no. He then tries to film without her knowledge. She picks up on it. Filming someone during a sexual act without their consent and without their knowledge is sexual assault. It is an actual crime. It is punishable by law. I don't know if it was a crime in 2006, but it is recognized as a crime now. Okay? And just because something isn't legally recognized as a crime doesn't mean that it's not totally reprehensible. Like, if murder wasn't illegal, would that mean it was like morally okay? No, right? It's illegal because it is reprehensible. Sexual assault is illegal because it is reprehensible, not the other way around.
Let's turn this on. Playtime?
Excuse me.
What?
Camera is not off.
It's off. That's the standby light.
That is not the standby light, that's the record light.
This is sexual assault. It's incredibly violating. And he tries to do it. And she laughs it off because she is a victim. She is a woman victim who is trapped in that relationship, right? And she probably doesn't even realize how big of a violation that could have been if that had happened. If she hadn't known about that, let me tell you, this has happened to me. I was filmed without my consent by a partner during sex. Afterwards, the violation I felt was intense. I was disgusted. I couldn't bring myself to watch the video or look at my partner. Not my current partner, okay? It was an ex, okay? An ex, not my current partner. My current partner would never, okay? And he deleted that video. Doesn't mean it's not a crime. Doesn't mean I don't feel that disgust. Doesn't mean that that harm to me is undone just because he deleted the video. It's reprehensible. And Moonpie agrees, don't you, my love? This is also the first night that we as audience see activity. We see the door move and there's like a rumbling stuff. Yes, it is the same day that the psychic arrived, but it's also the day that Micah crossed a huge boundary and could have ended up committing a crime against his partner. He wanted to. Like, the fact that she noticed is the only thing that saved her in that instance. He was absolutely going to cross her boundary and violate her body in that way. And that's when the demon activity ramped up. Throughout the movie, when Katie says that she is scared, he says it's fine, it's okay. He either responds by saying it wasn't that bad. She says, are you not scared? And he says, well, it was unusual. It was scary. He was scared.
Disturbing.
Scared?
It's a little bizarre. It's gonna be fine, okay?
Or he tries to divert her by saying, oh, you look really beautiful, by the way, and stuff like that. But he never acknowledges that she's scared and says that's valid and I'm here with you in your fear and I am going to do what I can to not make you scared. He dismisses her feelings. It's actually a pretty major interaction in my mind for like the dynamic of their relationship. When the psychic asks, how is your relationship, to Katie, Katie goes, looks over at Micah and he says, it's good.
What's your relationship like?
It's good.
It's good. Well, that's one good step.
Straight to the point there.
How long?
What's your relationship like?
Didn't wait for her to answer. Didn't let her answer. It's good. He's asserted that.
Maybe we shouldn't have the camera. If things progress or get worse in any way, I don't want to mess with the camera stuff anymore. I don't want to make it.
Let me do my thing.
Hey, the camera is your thing.
idea.
The camera is your thing. You do a Ouija board, there's no more. Nothing. Promise me.
She tries multiple times to get him to stop recording the incidences because she believes that the camera is making things worse. And at one point, he actually emotionally manipulates her by saying, I get a say in how we deal with this because you didn't warn me about it.
You didn't exactly warn me about this kind of stuff before we moved in together. So I think I have a little bit of say in what we do.
And she goes, okay, you know, it's fair, like, but when would I have told you?
First date, hey, there's a demon that I think.
No, but maybe on our 15th date or our 30th date or when we decided to live together, that might have been a good thing to bring up. Okay.
But it doesn't matter because we know at the beginning of the movie, even after stuff has been happening, he didn't believe that it was happening. It's only after they get proof on camera does he start to believe it. And even then, he's still dismissing her feelings about it and dismissing what it could be or that it's that serious. And he thinks he can handle it. So no, he doesn't get a say in it because if she had disclosed it, he wouldn't have believed her. And no, he doesn't get a say in how they handle it because he's not the victim. It's happening to Katie. She is the one scared. She is the one presumably being targeted. So no, he doesn't get a say in how they handle it. But he uses that as a point to hurt her and turn the conversation in his benefit so that he can continue to use the camera. He does this multiple times where he manipulates the situation, manipulates her emotions so that he can get what he wants.
Please just get away from me with that camera. I'm trying to study.
I kind of want to talk to you about this thing.
Micah, please, will you give me 5 minutes?
Hey, chill out. What the fuck?
Just leave me alone. Would you stop following me with the camera?
I'm trying to solve the problem here. I didn't bring that thing into the house.
Don't do me.
You did.
Oh,
Hang out with your friend upstairs. I'll be down here.
shut up.
After he yells at her, accuses her that this is all her fault, she breaks down and she is sobbing and she is apologizing. And he comforts her. He hugs her. He still films her. And he says, it's not your fault. Does he say, I'm sorry? Does he say, I shouldn't have done this? No. He refuses to take any accountability for his actions.
Go, come on, please.
So Micah also, is constantly being begged by a terrified Katie not to leave her alone, not to go and do that. Please just stay with me. Please, I am so scared. She begs him. And he continuously abandons her in her fear and leaves and does something that upsets her more. She tries to not even sleep in the bedroom. And he's like, oh, you know it won't make a difference.
It can make a difference.
I'm not going in that bedroom.
Look,
I'm not going.
I'm fast.
No, downstairs. It's just, please.
It's not gonna make a difference.
I don't want to be in here. I don't want to be in here. Downstairs, please.
But she's scared, man. He won't do anything to comfort her. The biggest example of him totally dismissing her feelings is when he promises not to buy a Ouija board to communicate with the entity. It has already been acknowledged by him and other characters that communicating with this thing is a bad idea. It will make things worse and it will impact Katie.
He specifically said don't do anything to antagonize or
Whatever it is.
Sorry.
No, you're going to use.
Not, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I told you. He was going to do it anyway. He promises not to buy a board and then he goes out and borrows one. And when she's upset at him, he goes, I didn't break what you said. I borrowed it. And she even says, you knew exactly what I meant. The spirit of the promise was that he would not communicate with this entity, but he deliberately promised not to buy a Ouija board so that he could get around it. He then acts like she's ridiculous for getting upset.
Figure I'm gonna go out and get a Ouija board?
No. Micah, promise me, please.
Fine, I promise you I won't buy a Ouija board.
What are you doing?
I'm gonna talk to it.
Look at me.
I told you I promised you I wasn't gonna buy a Ouija board. I didn't buy a Ouija board.
You mean exactly what I meant.
I borrowed a Ouija board. Whoa, chill, babe.
Get the fuck out.
Whoa.
I don't want to look.
Chill.
He is actively putting her in danger, and she is upset by it, not only because she is the one in danger, but also because he broke her trust, and he is now trying to tell her that she shouldn't be upset about that.
I swear to abide by Katie's rules and regulations of camera use and other things. Whatever. Is that good enough for you?
If you have to get your partner to apologize like this, like, I promise from now on, I solemnly swear that I will never hurt Katie's feelings again. If he goes, ugh, is that good enough? I did it. Get out, okay? You're not with a partner, you're with a big baby, okay? That's not him taking responsibility. That's not him apologizing. That's not him actually respecting you. It's disgusting. And it's unacceptable in an adult partner. As a wee side note, I'm not blaming Katie here, but if someone crosses your boundaries, you don't say, don't do that again. You say, I'm removing myself from the situation, okay? You can't control other people's behavior, but you can control yourself. He crossed her boundary. She should have left. She should have moved into another room. She should have removed the Ouija board herself. And he then goes like, what can I do? What can I do? And she says, turn off the camera. But she should have just not engaged with him at all. He crossed a boundary. It was totally unacceptable. And the punishment should be to remove access to her, right? But she loves him and she's kind of stuck, and I get it. We're people pleasers by heart. You know, you don't necessarily want to make that hard line. But he has crossed so many boundaries, okay? You don't have to keep people pleasing someone who refuses to acknowledge your feelings. He also twice interrupts her having like an emotional, like, you know, gossip relaxation sesh with one of her friends or her sister. I'm not actually sure. But basically she's like hanging out and she's talking about her feelings. Micah comes over and interrupts. And when they say, hey, do you mind? We're just having like, you know, a bit of girl time. He's like, fuck, I want to show you something. He gets so aggressive.
Yeah, but you know what? If you can just show me.
Hello,
Yeah.
excuse me.
And we're having very intense girl time right now.
What the fuck? I'm trying to show you guys something.
We saw something happening.
It's crazy.
I can't.
What are you guys talking?
I'm at my. Just everything.
He deliberately interrupts this time with her friends because she is like discussing her emotions with someone who is not him. She's discussing her emotions with someone who will validate her feelings, and she's discussing her emotions with someone who will question him, who stands up to him.
Yeah, I got a plan. Don't worry about it.
Micah, what's your plan?
I got a plan.
What? What are you gonna do?
Don't worry about it, okay?
That friend is a threat to his power dynamic with Katie, because that friend says directly to him, what is your plan? And he does not elaborate. He refuses to, because he doesn't have a plan. Because it's a demon, Micah. Because also his plan involves putting Katie in more danger, right? His plan is to continue to provoke this thing because he wants to get more stuff on camera, because it is not affecting him. It is affecting Katie. Every time Micah diminishes or dismisses Katie's feelings, every time he crosses a boundary, every time his actions or words result in Katie getting upset, there is activity. It is a direct correlation between Micah's behavior, the way he treats Katie, and demonic activity. And every time Katie is the one who is terrified, Katie is the one being targeted. And so he continues to do it. Finally, he's got this like weird, aggressive possessiveness of Katie. It ties back into the prop thing, right?
I'm taking care of it. This is my house. You're my girlfriend. I'm gonna fucking solve the problem.
She's essentially his way of getting demonic activity. He does not care if she's scared. He wants to get that demonic activity on camera.
You can have your powder. You can do your little experiment. If it doesn't work, if it doesn't help us, I'm calling the demonologist and we're getting this taken care of.
Deal.
Hey. Just let's talk about this first. Just, I'm in control.
You know.
You are absolutely powerless.
That's not true at all. You know
Well,
it.
get over it.
He also acts like, this is my house, this is my girlfriend, I'm gonna solve the problem. He does this to stop her calling the psychic again. He does this to stop her calling the demonologist. He does this to stop her questioning him and questioning his methods.
What the hell? How come my face is scratched and yours isn't?
Finally, it starts to impact him because his picture gets damaged. And he is the one stared at when she gets possessed, right? So he starts to feel a little bit targeted. And this is where we see him start to want to get out the house. This is when Micah suddenly believes the psychic. When the psychic comes round after Micah's picture has been scratched, he's like, this is serious, this is real, you have to help us. Suddenly he's getting a little bit targeted. He's dealing with the consequences of his actions, and suddenly it's real and serious. And we see that Katie is now being dragged out of the bed. She is bitten. She grips a cross or a crucifix so hard that her hand bleeds. And instead, he tends to her wound, but he also yells.
Hit it with this shit. Taking care of this right now.
And what does he do when he deals with it once and for all? He burns the cross that she was gripping so tight because she was terrified that she bled. He burns that, her symbol of safety, and he burns the photo of her that they found.
Fuck this shit, I'm done.
He doesn't burn the Ouija board. He doesn't burn the tapes. He doesn't turn the camera off. He burns symbols of Katie and Katie's safety. He's yelling around her and at her while she is terrified when she's been bitten. And that night, after he burns the symbol of her safety and burns the image of her, that is when finally the demonic entity takes over and kills him. So we see throughout the movie that there is a direct correlation between Micah's behavior and treatment of Katie and demonic activity. Every time he hurts her, not physically, but emotionally, every time he hurts her, demonic activity increases. We don't actually see the entity ever hurt Katie until the bite. She is scared. She is terrified. It breathes on her. The noises scare her. But until she is dragged out of the bed and bitten for the possession, it doesn't actually hurt her. The target of its animosity is always Micah. We see this when she does get possessed, okay? So she's initially sort of semi-possessed one night where she gets out of bed and she just stares at him, and then she leaves. And she stays out of the house, and she won't go back into the house with Micah.
Come on.
No, I don't want to go in.
And it's only when she snaps out of that possession does she come back inside. When she is dragged out of the bed, she's dragged away from Micah. The door is slammed on him to separate them. And finally, at the end, when she is, possessed, it wants her to stay in the house. Micah wants to leave. So whenever Micah refuses to leave, the entity keeps getting Katie to leave.
You want to stay here and sleep in this fucking bed and get dragged down the hall again? I don't think so.
We'll be okay. It's better if we stay.
And now, finally, at the end of the movie, when he wants to leave, the entity wants to stay. Everything about its activity is antagonistic towards Micah and desperately trying to keep Katie away from Micah. The signs are there, girl, run! The entity does not harm Katie until the second to last night, right? The second to last night is when it finally bites her. And I think it needs to bite her in order to properly enter her body, which is scary and that is harmful. Like, if this was like a human interaction, obviously don't hang around people who bite you. I shouldn't say that. I've bitten people. But like, unprovoked. Maybe you weren't that bite. Okay, no. The antagonism is towards Micah. While Katie is the one being terrorized, and from a perspective, you can see that it seems like Katie is the victim. However, when we look at the Ouija board scene, it has been confirmed by the creators and like from people watching it and stuff that the Ouija board does not spell out Diane like Micah thinks with the exorcism and stuff. It actually spells out Micah goodbye. That's what it wants. It wants Micah gone, and it wants Micah away from Katie.
These hauntings, they feed off of negative energy. So if there is something negative going on here, it will help spur on the haunting.
To me, it's pretty obvious that the entire movie happens because Micah is a bad partner. Micah is not a good boyfriend. And every time the entity is trying to tell Katie to get out of this relationship, okay, because he is not good for her. And abuse escalates. They've only been together 3 years. Abuse starts off small. They start off with that like sort of manipulation sort of stuff, crossing boundaries, and he's not yet like refusing to pay for food and stuff, but he has full financial control over her, right? And he has not made any promises to her, like legally she's not protected. They're engaged to be engaged, which basically is saying like, I don't want to be legally tied to you, but I do want you to be financially dependent on me. Manale! Micah's aggression really stands out to me. The way he will flip out the minute she says, like, do you mind coming back later? Do you mind giving me space? I just like, I don't want to deal with this like entity stuff right now. Instead of saying, okay, I'll come back later, he's like, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to do something for you. I'm trying to show you something. He gets so aggressive. To me, that would escalate into physical violence, okay? I just don't see how someone who acts like that and doesn't deal with their emotions properly, doesn't deal with their emotional regulation, who is so okay with speaking so disrespectfully to anyone, let alone their partner, like it escalates. Eventually, Micah would turn into a directly emotionally abusive, possibly physically abusive partner. You can just see it. The writing is on the wall, right? It's not quite as explicit. He's not as comfortable yet to fully go mask off. But all of the stuff is there. All of the building blocks for an abusive relationship is there. And it is definitely an unhealthy relationship. It's not a good relationship. What is Katie getting out of this? Demonic activity? What does she get out of that relationship? Yes, and the thing about being in a financially unequal relationship is it is both a privilege and not a privilege. Yes, there's the class privilege of it, to be able to have one partner not working and to be able to support like 2 people or more on one person's income, that's a class privilege. But it is not an individual privilege, right? Because you are reliant on another person, you're not independent, you are vulnerable. You are vulnerable when you are reliant on someone else for your income, whether that's a romantic partner, a family member, whatever. If you do not have your own personal wealth and you cannot easily leave a living situation because of finances, then you are not personally privileged, right? So while class-wise, Katie is privileged. Class-wise, Katie and Micah as a partnership are privileged. As an individual, Katie is not privileged. She is vulnerable. And particularly in her relationship with Micah, because it is a toxic relationship, because it is an unhealthy relationship, but because she cannot leave easily, because she is so reliant on him financially, like she is a victim here. And the demon is trying to give her hints. Because she could still leave it would be really, really hard, okay? It is incredibly hard to leave any abusive relationship, but particularly one where you are financially reliant on the other person. Like, it's really, really difficult, especially when you love them. If you love your abuser, it's really hard to leave your abuser because the love keeps you there. And Katie loves Micah. I think Micah, in his own way, loves Katie. I don't think he cares about Katie. And I think those two things are different. He doesn't respect her, for sure. And there are times when he is sweet and he is loving and he is caring. And those times make you ride out the bad times, because you're like, well, sometimes he's nice and he puts up with, in her head, he puts up with the demon that came with me. I'm so lucky no one else would put up with this demon. But I am going to tell you directly that if I was being oppressed by demonic activity, my partner would not blame me and he wouldn't provoke it. He would never provoke it. And also, he wouldn't make me sleep by the door where the demonic activity is happening, Micah. I'm just saying. You deserve someone who will still love you even when there are demonic activities happening around you. Even if you are oppressed by a demonic presence, your partner should love you, should support you. They should be there for you, okay? They don't get to say, oh, you didn't tell me about the demon that's oppressing you, therefore I get to treat you however I want. Nuh-uh, baby, you deserve better. Someone who loves you will love you, demon and all, okay? You deserve better. So that's sort of my, the real villain of the movie is Micah, okay? I think I've made that very clear, okay? Micah sucks, and Micah had it coming. But here's where we get into sort of my crackpot theory, okay? This is my personal theory. So for most of human history, we haven't really, had very good laws or tracking people, or been very, very good at protecting people from bad situations. And for most of human history, it was my nail has come off. You okay, it's a fake nail, it's not. For most of human history, it's also kind of been easy to just sort of dip and go and make a life somewhere else, to just be like, bye, and fake your name, fake your past, you just go live somewhere else, right? So imagine Middle Ages, earlier than the Middle Ages, that agricultural time, that time between caveman times and what we consider to be known history, this is a long time for human history, thousands and thousands of years before we started recording stuff as consistently as we do now, and in various different areas, right? And you're a vulnerable woman. We're going to look at this from a feminist perspective. So we're going to be focusing on women and how women have historically been oppressed and contemporarily are oppressed, right? We're going to be looking at it from that lens. You are a woman who is married to someone you are financially dependent on, and he is a bad person. You cannot get out. There is no one there to get you out. Except there's a supernatural entity that you can go to protect you, right? Some sort of girl's girl supernatural entity out there. There are spirits, there are beings, they exist. Perhaps some people call them demons, perhaps some people call them angels. Angels are scary. That's why they have to say, be not afraid. So you go and you pray to your guardian angel to rid you of this man. And he starts to get warnings to treat you better. And whenever he doesn't take that warning, whenever he refuses to treat you like a person and not like property, well, then the demon possesses your body and empowers you to do what you must in that situation. And because this is ancient times, and because supernatural entities do not have the same sort of hang-ups that humans do, he cocks it. He's sleeping with the fishes. Okay? He has been gently pushed off this mortal coil. He has been sent down to where he belongs. And then the entity takes you supernaturally to somewhere where you are not known, and you can live a new and free life. sounds great. That sounds fantastic to me. Okay, that sounds great. I don't see a problem with that, because the only men who are being victimized are men who are treating women badly. Micah has multiple opportunities throughout the movie to stop hurting Katie. He has multiple opportunities to apologize, to take accountability, to stop being a bad partner and actually step up to the plate and be a loving, caring, equal partner to Katie and treat her like a human being. But he continues to treat her like a prop, like property, as a means to an end. He refuses to treat her with respect and compassion. And because of that, my theory is that this entity is attached to Katie. Maybe there's some sort of bargain in her family's life, and it's there to protect her. It's actually a protective entity. But because she doesn't know what it is, because she is ignorant of her own power in this situation, she is scared of it. Right? You see how I'm turning this into a feminism thing? You see how I'm turning this into a metaphor? So she is scared because she doesn't understand that she has the power in this situation. And she doesn't understand that she's actually not the victim of this entity, but Micah is. And because throughout history, whenever a woman is empowered, she has been villainized. So these entities that would have been considered guardian angels to women who were victims of men, because men are in power, they would turn them into demons. They would say this is a demonic activity that is targeting this innocent woman and is going to harm her. But it actually ends up harming the man who is harming her. And look, I think this would apply because, this is an ancient entity from across thousands of years of human history. So I think, it absolutely would apply to gay relationships, and it wouldn't just have to be man-woman thing. And if you are a man be in an abusive relationship with a woman, I think this entity would also protect you. Or maybe there's a specific one for men. But all I'm saying is, the entity is just there to protect her from an abusive relationship. And the abuser is given the opportunity, openly, consistently told, stop making her scared. Stop antagonizing it. Just respect Katie's feelings. And he doesn't. So what happens? He is killed. But that's not the demon hurting Katie. That's the demon protecting her from a shitty guy. So that's my theory, okay? That's where I go somewhat away from an actual, everything else I said is actually in the movie. You can see that, I think almost it was intentional. I don't know. It was 2006, so we don't know how, woke the writers were. But to me, it seems impossible to write that dynamic and how things were going and not see that Micah is the cause of it. I found some Reddit posts that also agreed on this, right? People were yeah, he's the reason the demonic activity got worse. He's the reason that Katie got possessed. It's all his fault. I'm going a step further and I'm saying the entity wasn't even a bad entity. It is not there to hurt Katie. It's there to protect her. And personally, I wish this were real, okay? I think the world would be a better place if actually we could summon supernatural entities to protect us from abusers. I'm not saying that you should go out and, demonic activity, an abuser. My abuser's out there and I haven't, I think maybe if there was the possibility for a supernatural backlash, more abusers, particularly men, would think twice about abusing someone because, they might get demoned. I kind of wish demons were real in this instance, if they really were like the ones in Paranormal Activity, the first one, forget the rest of the movies. If demons existed in this way, I kind of think it would be fine because everything would have been fine if Micah had just been a nice guy. And so a real life person, I'm not going to say would deserve this treatment, not for what Micah did. However, narratively, from a fictional standpoint, Micah got exactly what he deserved. Anyway, that's my video on Paranormal Activity. Micah was the real bad guy, and hot take, the demon wasn't even a bad guy. The demon was a guardian angel. Katie deserved way better. And in my fanfic world, the rest of the paranormal activities didn't happen, and Katie's living her best life with a new boyfriend who respects her and treats her kindly. Hooray! Thanks for watching, and please admire, because I'm so happy with how this turned out.